As we come on these airwaves on the Matt Murphy Radio Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, I bid you a good afternoon. It's 12:04. Thank you for being with us. Whatever time you're able to give us, we're certainly appreciative of that. Let's get the pleasantries out of the way. But I noticed as I come on the air that 4,000 illegal aliens have crossed over the southern border today. 4,000 illegal aliens have crossed over the southern border just today.
Light day.
I mean, I guess you could consider it a light day. I don't know what the average is, but I know that there are far too many crossing our southern border on a regular basis. And I saw the headline there, and it just struck me that maybe you want to know that 4,000 separate individuals that ought not to be in this country came into this country, and they're doing so under the auspices or under the guise of, we're claiming asylum. And nobody actually believes that. All right, it's Wednesday. It's September 20th. It is our episode 419 of these proceedings on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You're invited to be a part of them at any point during the course of the broadcast day. I'd love to have you comment. I'd love to turn a monologue into a dialogue, especially if you disagree with me. If you disagree with me, you go to the front of the line, 615-737-9986, 615-737-WWTN. That is your telephone number of choosing, and that is also your super text line. You can super text us, and we'll share some of those as the proceedings move forward. Merrick Garland is speaking, testifying on Capitol Hill today. Just moments ago, as I was discussing with Chris Hand at the conclusion of his show, Thomas Massey grilled Attorney General Merrick Garland on Ray Epps as to whether or not Ray Epps is a part of an FBI informant circle present on January 6th, 2021. Merrick Garland said he doesn't know. I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? You're the Attorney General of the United States of America. You just indicted Ray Epps. What do you mean you don't know? I don't know. Don't know. Didn't think to look before I came here. It's ridiculous. Absolutely travesty of justice that these individuals that occupy the White House and that are a part of this Biden administration cannot be more honest and forthcoming with the American people. Meanwhile, they're putting people in jail for years simply based on their presence outside of the Capitol, not necessarily inside of the Capitol, outside of the Capitol on January 6, 2021. So we'll discuss that on the show today.
Stream title.
Oh yeah. Hey Bell, we got the radio side of things up and running. We got the streaming up and running. If you are on a streaming platform of your choosing, we thank you for that. And then there's the Super Talk TV side of things. That would be YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. And every day, as Bell prepares the Super Talk TV side of things, he gives our episode a title. And the title today is
Matt Murphy presents the From the Vault tracks from Tay Tay, noon to 3 p.m. on the Libertarian Lunch.
It is the Libertarian Lunch Hour on Super Talk 99.7 WT, and I don't know about the Tay Tay side of things.
Love me some Tay Tay.
Okay, so if I wanted to attempt to give Taylor Swift fair hearing, and you had one song that you feel like this one is the one that'll hook him, this is the one that'll draw him in to Family Tay Tay, which one would it be?
See, that's just a tough question because there's so much diversity in her output that, I mean, you could take one record and go, I really like that. And then the next one, you'd be like, what the hell happened? What changed?
Oh, so she's changed over the years.
Oh, yeah, significantly.
Uh-huh.
Like she went through that period where she was extremely pop, and then she went into kind of an Americana phase. And, of course, there was the country. Everything was country.
That was all the beginning, right?
Yeah. So it's a very odd amalgam of different, it's a mishmash of styles.
Mm-hmm. So
I would say just start at the beginning and listen to everything.
Oh, jeez. You just condemned me to hell. What
no,
you did.
You'll enjoy it. I promise you. You'll love it.
I shall not. I can promise you that.
I mean, I don't want, actually.
What about a Taylor Swift shirt? What about Bill Haggerty in a Taylor Swift T-shirt on the floor of the
Motley Crue.
United States Senate? So it's only Motley Crue. Okay. All right. Okay, well, I'm not into Tay Tay, and Bell knows that. He just does these things to agitate me. Speaking of agitation, let's start the show in this fashion. So we just had an election in Nashville. Obviously, Nashville is kind of the sun, or, I mean, if I tried to do some sort of solar system analogy, I just failed. But Nashville is the big elephant in the room when it comes to local municipalities and governments in Middle Tennessee and in the metro region. There are others that matter, obviously. I mean, I do not dismiss the importance of a Hendersonville or a Goodlettsville or a Franklin or a Columbia. I mean, all of that makes up the metro region, which is so important and vital to the rest of the state of Tennessee. But Nashville is kind of the center of that universe. But Franklin is an incredibly important part of our community, and we appreciate all of you Franklin folks who listen to the show on a regular basis down there. And they are set to have an election later on, I guess, next month. They are selecting their next mayor, and they are selecting a slate of aldermen. They call them aldermen down there. I don't know why they call them aldermen down there. Why can't you just be city councilors? Why you got to be aldermen? I don't know. Maybe that's just the way they've always done it. Maybe there's a justified reason for it. So I want to give you a little backstory before I tell you the latest story on one of the candidates for mayor in the city of Franklin. So in the aftermath, in the days following the Covenant School shooting, the tragic evil that occurred to Covenant School in the spring, in the days that followed, I became aware of a person in Franklin who serves as an alderman on the council. I guess you still call it a council. See, this is why I hate the concept of calling them aldermen. Because what is it? It is an... God dang it. Thank you.
It's an alder bench.
I don't know. Sorry, I'm having an incredibly difficult time formulating my thoughts, considering that I can't get silent mode on my phone right now, and the damn thing keeps dinging. Anyway, so Gabrielle Hanson made an appearance on a podcast called the Mill Creek View Podcast that you hear me talking about quite frequently. Steve Abramowitz has become a friend over the months following up on this podcast. And she made a claim that she had intimate knowledge about intimate details that she could not possibly have had regarding the genesis of the Covenant School shooting. I will not go into the debate about what she knew and what she did not know, except to say that Gabrielle Hanson claimed that 30 minutes after the shooting happened, before we actually knew who the shooter was, that she had a mystery person that called her and told her everything that went down.
Your interview with her is still up on the podcast page, so if people are interested in hearing that, they can go to your page on the website.
So I became aware of Hanson. Thank you very much, Bell, for that, 997WTN.com. So I became aware of Gabrielle Hanson in the aftermath of that podcast interview, and I invited her on the show to talk about her frustration over the Pride Parade coming back to Franklin and her concerns about the Pride Parade being in Franklin, and to talk to her about her claim that she had intimate knowledge and intimate details of what went down at the Covenant School, and she was suggesting that it was some sort of love triangle between the shooter and another person at the school. And I want to say I won't go into the details because I think they're salacious and I don't believe they're true. So Gabrielle and I got sideways on that point, where she was making claims of having special and intimate knowledge about things that she couldn't possibly know. And from there, I let it lie. It was what it was. And it is up to the people of Franklin to decide whether or not they want to reelect someone along these lines. Well, Gabrielle Hanson has since thrown her hat into the ring as a candidate for mayor of Franklin. And so she is offering herself up for public service and public scrutiny. And she's receiving quite a bit of public scrutiny, particularly with News Channel 5 and Phil Williams, who has decided that she is a burr in his saddle that he wants to extricate. Now, Phil Williams is good at what he does, but what he does is target Republicans, okay? Phil Williams does not treat Democrats with the same scrutiny as he treats Republicans. Phil, if you're listening, You can deny it till the cows come home, but until you investigate Justin Jones and his complicity with a sexual assault that happened in 2020, where there's credible evidence, there's eyewitness evidence that Brother Jones covered up a sexual assault outside of the Tennessee Capitol in 2020, and you know exactly what I'm talking about, and you refuse to discuss it in your investigative reports. So don't tell me that you don't cherry pick based on the political affiliation of the individual that you're investigating, because I know you do, Phil. I know you do. That said, that does not mean that Phil is not good at what he sets his mind to. And he is. He is. And he ensures, as one would expect, that he buttons down his story prior to publication. So he has set his sights against Gabrielle Hansen, and Gabrielle Hansen makes it easy. Now, I chose not to discuss the issue involving her lying about her friendships and affiliations with regard to her run for mayor that Phil exposed some weeks ago because it wasn't important enough to me. It just seemed like we were piling on at that point. But considering that the people of Franklin need to know this information in order to make informed decisions, I think the latest information that Phil was set to expose regarding Gabrielle Hansen and that she tried to get in front of is of enough note that I wanted to bring it up today. So, Franklin's a town of about, 80,000 people thereabouts, 80 to 90,000 people. It's growing by leaps and bounds on a daily basis. I mean, it's a major part of the metropolitan region of Nashville. So for those living in Nashville making these decisions, you need to know these things. Gabrielle Hansen came out with a video. I would refer to it as somewhat of a hostage video in as much as I don't think she wanted to make it. I think she felt like she had to make it in advance of news that was coming out about some of her past. But I want to... 4931 just distracted me in a funny way. That's funny. 4931 says, hey, we're full here in Franklin. All full. No good. Thank you. Come back again. When we lose one, we'll pick one up. One out, one in. That's how we work in Franklin nowadays. 8359 says, I love that you call out Phil Williams, especially Justin Jones. Well, it's true. Look, I don't have anything against Phil Williams. I don't know Phil Williams. I don't evaluate any of this on the basis of personal relationships because I don't have a personal relationship. I don't have a personal relationship with Gabrielle Hansen. I don't have a personal relationship with Phil Williams. I don't know who these people are. This is not personal because I don't know them personally. I observe their work and I evaluate their work based on its merit. And I will tell you this, love me or hate me, I am an equal opportunity offender. I don't care what you consider yourself. If you're doing right by the people of the state of Tennessee, I'm going to call that. If you're doing wrong by the people of the state of Tennessee, I'm going to call you out on that too. And Phil, he cherry picks his subjects. And based on a wealth of past history, I have determined that a large part of that is whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, whether you're a conservative or a liberal. Liberals get the pass. Gloria Johnson's going to get a pass. Justin Jones will get a pass. Pearson will get a pass. Republicans get no passes with Phil Williams. That's all I'm saying. So apparently Gabrielle Hansen was arrested some 30 years ago. In the interest of full disclosure, I want to tell you guys something. I was arrested some 30 years ago while I was in college.
For the same thing?
Not for the same thing. Okay. I was not arrested as a part of a prostitution ring. I am ashamed to tell you that when I was in college, I got a DUI and was arrested for it. And I thank God every day of my life that that's all that it was, that it was not something worse in terms of putting the health and safety of other people in direct harm's way. Although I was doing that, driving drunk, but it is what it is. And I'm very open about it and what I learned from it. So I'm not casting aspersions about someone's past. I'm casting aspersions about someone's present. And Gabrielle Hansen claims that she is offering this information up to the people of Franklin in the interest of full-throated transparency. She writes on her Instagram feed, as we embrace transparency, I want to acknowledge that we all carry our own past, and I'm here to share a chapter from mine that unfolded almost 30 years ago. Hashtag Gabrielle Hansen for mayor, hashtag Gabrielle Hansen, hashtag downtown Franklin, hashtag transparency, hashtag vote for Hansen, hashtag Franklin 10, hashtag Franklin 10 real estate, hashtag Franklin 10 moms, hashtag I'm not done. Hashtag conservative women, hashtag West Haven, Tennessee, hashtag Cool Springs, Tennessee, hashtag McKay's Mill, hashtag Ladd Park, hashtag Williamson County 10, hashtag Heart of Franklin, hashtag conservatives.
Hashtag hash browns.
Holy. Stop hashtagging everything. Yeah, Brian, I said full-throated, and I meant it. All right, so that's the setup. What is Gabrielle Hansen accused of doing? We will give you the payoff in just a moment on Super Talk. This is great. This is great. I've never heard of this in my life, but you'll love this. What are you beeping over there? I can hear you. I can hear the clicking. I'm not trying to yell at you. Did that come off harsh? I'm sorry. Headless Bell, I apologize.
Break my heart.
I'm sorry. I didn't see your mic on there, but I heard the clicky click. You're busy in there.
Yeah, I got a bunch of behind-the-scenes stuff I'm trying to get caught up on.
Let everybody hear the click now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So I like to say that Savory Spice ups your food game by upping your spice game, which is absolutely the truth. And if you have those old clumpy spices that you bought 18 years ago and they've been in the back of the cupboard for years, what are you doing? Are you banging them on the side of don't bang them on the side of the counter so you can unclump them. Throw those things away. Get in your car. Go to Savory Spice, either in Nashville, Tennessee, in Ellendale Market. That's on Charlotte Pike. Or if you're near Franklin, get off the square, and you'll see them right by Gray's Pharmacy. Go in. You'll smell it before you see it. And when you smell it and you see it, you'll buy it. It's Savory Spice. They have so many different wonderful spice blends. They've got more salts than you can imagine. I didn't know that there were so many salts in the world, but there are. There's, Himalayan, and there's the Alderwood smoked that I love so much, that I talk about so much. They've got different salt blends with salt and pepper and whatnot. Now, if you're leading a salt-free lifestyle, they've got a lot of different spices for you as well, and different blends that you can utilize to cook up deliciousness in your kitchen. Thank you to Savory Spice. They're locally owned and operated. I love that. Holly and David created the company years ago with the investment being that you deserve better spices in your kitchen, because you up the food game by upping the spice game, and you up the spice game through Savory Spice. So I encourage you to go see them. Tell them that I said hello to you, and I encourage you to shop at your leisure at Savory Spice. 2 locations, one Ellendale Market, the other in Franklin, just off the square. Tell them Murphy sent you to Savory Spice. If you own your home, have you done an examination of your home recently? You know, it merits every once in a while. I'm not saying every day, every week, every month even, but every so often, do that examination and see if you've got brick issues. See that if you have mortar issues, that you're doing something about it. See or smell if you have waterproofing issues like standing water in your crawl spaces or musty odors coming from your basement. If any of these issues are a part of your life, you need to do something about it right now. You need to call USS. They will give you the peace of mind that you're looking for. USS, they are experts in waterproofing and foundation repair and concrete leveling. They've been doing it for a long time. Almost 30 years now, USS has been serving Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, and Northern Alabama, and they want to serve you. They have over 25,000 reasons why they're the best in the business. These are the customer testimonials that we tell you about all the time. USS has been keeping homes stable and dry, and do not, as I like to say this, whistle past the graveyard when it comes to your foundation issues or your waterproofing issues. It's time to call the best. Called USS. USSTN.com for more information, USSTN.com, or schedule an appointment today, 615-488-7855, 488-7855. USS. Tell them Murphy sent you. Taylor Swift? Yeah? All right?
Yeah, it's one of the new tracks.
Oh, man, you're right. She has changed. I mean,
it's all about variety, baby.
I mean, maybe I'll give her a listen. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's 12:26. Matt Murphy Show just getting underway, episode 419. As always, phone lines open and available for you, 615-737-9986, especially if you think I'm being mean to Gabrielle Hansen. I'm not trying to be. I just, I think truth matters. And apparently she cannot stop herself from engaging in unforced errors. So she presented this video or this series of photos online recently. Someone asked, what are you talking about that happened recently that you didn't deal with? She put something up on her Instagram page that she has since removed that said, oh, these are the women of Franklin that love me and want me to be mayor or whatever. Well, apparently, this was a stock photograph of people from Chicago, Illinois, that were at some sort of conference, and she got called out about it. She goes, no, these women moved to Franklin recently, which wasn't true. These are unforced errors, folks. You're telling me you can't find 8 or 10 diverse females to sit in a room that all say they're going to vote for you and take a picture of those people. Instead, you have to go online and find some stock photograph and then lie about it and say you were at a conference or whatever.
Phil Williams actually posted video of him calling her on his cell phone. I guess he was at his desk in his office.
Right.
And challenging her point by point on this.
Like, who are these people?
Yeah,
they say they don't know you. I've talked to them.
Funny.
They say this is such an unforced era. My grandfather, God bless him and God rest his soul. My grandfather had an old saying, and I remember it, and it is one of my Murphy mantras, that some people would rather climb a tree and tell a lie than stand on the ground and tell the truth. Some people go through great effort to lie to you when there's no reason to do it. Gabrielle Hansen is one of these people, in my opinion. Why in the world would she go to such great effort to lie to the people of Franklin, Tennessee about her associations? It's an unforced error. It goes to character. So here's Gabrielle explaining to you an issue that happened to her in her past. Actually, I don't think I have the time. Well, I'll try to.
In college, I had worked 2 jobs, going to night school, until I finally ran out of community college courses and needed to transfer to a 4-year university. I was fortunate and surprised that I got accepted at a prestigious school called Southern Methodist University, SMU, in Dallas. Living in Dallas was expensive, and wages were about $5.50 an hour to $6.50 an hour. I continued to work 2 jobs.
Okay. I don't want to be overly critical here, but if you're going to read a statement, just read a statement. But she is reading this statement. It's obviously been pre-written for her. She's not speaking extemporaneously, and that's okay. But roughly $5.50 to $6.50 per hour. Well, what was it? Right? Like, I can tell. There's another.
And the detail's so unimportant.
Completely unimportant. So why you make this decision to go there? I mentioned my grandfather taught me that some people would prefer to climb a tree and tell a lie than stand on the ground and tell the truth. My grandfather taught me something else. When I was a kid, and I'll get back to Gabrielle in a moment. When I was a kid, you know, like a lot of kids, I would try to fudge to get away with things with my grandfather. And I've told you the story of lying to my grandpa about smoking and the results of that. It was around that same time that my grandfather told me something that's also stuck with me. You don't have to remember the truth. You have to remember a lie. He told me one time, he said, you know what your problem is? You don't have a good enough memory to be the liar that you're trying to be right now. You don't have to remember the truth. The truth just magically comes to you. You either don't remember or you remember it properly. And you don't have any problem telling someone if something happened 30 years ago and you don't remember it, I don't remember that. But liars, you see, you have to track a lie because if you don't remember the lie that you told, you're not going to be able to remember how to cover up the lie that you told when somebody challenges you on that lie. Y'all follow? All right, more coming up in a moment. It's 12:31. Super Talk 99.7 WT. You know, Dr. Gill and the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief, they're about to get some more customers because Belle K's about to crack some skulls. You know, I'm looking. Taylor Swift is trash. That's what it says on the super text line. I'll let you handle that while I talk about the Dr. Gill Center. The Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief is simply the best in the business in Middle Tennessee with what they do. Now, they're obviously a chiropractic center. You know that. But also, they do so much more to help soft tissue, and they've gone beyond just the traditional back pain scenarios, and they've gone into elbow pain and neck pain, of course, and knee pain. If you suffer from knee pain, if it's painful to walk or perform day-to-day activities, the Dr. Gill Center wants to talk with you. Dr. Wendy and I were talking about this some weeks ago, where she believes she can alleviate significant knee pain for those of you who suffer over the next 30 days without pills, without surgery. What is living with knee pain costing you? Do not miss this opportunity. I want you to call the Dr. Gill Center right now and be one of the first to get back to a pain-free life away from that knee pain. Call 615-882-4838, 882-4838, or visit callmepainfree.com today. And when you call, tell them you heard about them on the Matt Murphy Show. It's the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief in Franklin. Man, I am getting an education on the difference between an alderman form of government and a city council form of government behind the scenes. I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. I wouldn't wish this on Gary Humble. I wouldn't. I just do that because it gives Bell so much pleasure. 1236 Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We continue. By the way, it is giving me a tremendous amount of pleasure watching and reading the Taylor Swift hate that is going down on the Super Text line, man. I mean, it's vicious.
In my entire life, I've never understood musical bigotry. I listen to everything. I'm talking old school country to death metal.
You told me today, on this day, September 20th, 2023, that you didn't know who Bobby Bear was.
I don't, but I do now.
Okay.
I mean, I remember being in my parents' obviously the house I lived in, but my mother, we had one of those big like furniture unit stereos.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We had one too.
And my mother putting
Did yours have a microphone on it?
No, it didn't have a mic. Had 8-track. Had an 8-track.
Ours had an 8-track. Yeah. Sure.
But putting on Bill Anderson records and me listening to them and being fascinated by the different sounds. And, I think that's one of my earliest memories and then after that, she'd throw on a Rolling Stones record. And and then maybe a Perry Como record or a Johnny Mathis record, then a Carpenter's record. And it was just this amalgam of all this great music.
See, if I wanted rock and roll, I had to lean on Mama. My grandmother was all in on country. Her version of a Wild album was Waylon. Right?
Did your grandfather like country?
Yeah, Pa was kind of non-committal on all of it.
But she was a fan.
Big time. Eddie Arnold.
Obviously, big Elvis fan, like you've said in the past.
Mama was the big Elvis fan, although Grandma liked Elvis too. My grandmother was a big time Jim Reeves fan.
Yeah.
I've got every Jim Reeves album I think ever made as a result. But she was big time into Waylon Jennings. Big time.
The first album I ever bought with my own money, my allowance, was the soundtrack to Grease.
Oh, we had that. Yeah. My older sister had that. Loved that album. Oh, yeah. Olivia Newton-John in that black outfit. Come on.
Well, and Shauna and I doing hand jive. Come on.
The hand jive. See, we're finding common ground here. I like that.
Yeah.
And then you bring up Taylor Swift and... All right. So, not to belabor this story.
You can't handle the truth.
Gabrielle Hansen is now claiming that she was, unbeknownst to her in her earlier life, a part of a prostitution ring, but she didn't know anything about it. This is in advance of Phil Williams coming out with a story about her arrest record in Dallas, Texas, some 30 years ago. So let's continue with her explainer, and I'll forgive her the fact that it's a hostage video and she's like reading this and she's trying to make it as conversational as she possibly can, but it's obviously something she doesn't want to do. But let's continue with Gabrielle Hansen, candidate for mayor of Franklin, Tennessee.
Cleaning houses, doing various jobs, and then one day in the newspaper, that's right, we didn't have cell phones or internet back then. There was a job in the paper for $10 to $12 an hour answering the phone at home. What a perfect job. It would eliminate the need for two jobs, and I could work from home and do my homework.
Okay.
So I took the job working for a modeling and entertainment casting company who was placing ads in JCPenney, various commercials, print ads. I answered the phone.
By the way, I don't want to, spoiler alert, that's not what they were doing. All right, let's continue.
I took a name, I took a number and a date. And at the end of my work session, I would call the owners and give them that information. So a little over a year on that job, one day the police came knocking at my door. Little did I know that they had also been operating a very lucrative casting couch. I was shocked, I was devastated. Everything I'd worked for 13 years was about to come true. It should have been the happiest, most exciting time of my life. And it ended up being the absolute lowest.
Okay, a couple of tips. If you've seen this video, Gabrielle's sitting there and someone is holding the camera while she's sitting, and the camera's moving from side to side. It makes it more, it makes it appear more like a hostage type situation. And I just, for future reference for candidates that are perhaps running for public office and you have to present some of these mea culpas, just find yourself a tripod, set up the tripod, and roll with it. Don't have some guy moving the camera around and you've got to follow the camera and follow wherever your script is or whatever. It's very disconcerting.
4269. Cleaning houses, turning tricks, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I mean, who hadn't been there, right? So I have so many questions, and I guess now's as good a time as any before we go into her arrest. So you took a job. I mean, maybe this is perfectly plausible. Am I being too mean? Is this plausible where you're working for $5.50 to $6.50 an hour, and you have an opportunity to take a job that earns you between $10 and $12 an hour? Now, this is 30 years ago. That's in 1993. I was in college in 1993. That's a good amount of money. So you work from home. You field telephone calls. I'm just trying to understand. I just want to make sure I understand this properly, Bill. You don't meet the people. I guess you maybe met the people that hired you. I'm assuming there was an interview process that involved something beyond a telephone call. But she doesn't go into that. You know, did you meet these people at their office? Did you sit down with them? Did they fully explain exactly what your job expectations were? What she claims is that she was merely fielding calls and people. Now that we know the full extent of the story, was she fielding calls from Johns or prospective prostitutes? I'm confused.
The impression I'm getting is that the Johns were calling to make appointments, and she was taking the requested appointment.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I mean, because the other explanation is she's fielding calls from women who think they're calling about modeling services. And then she takes their information and passes that information along to people. And I guess those people call her back and say, hey, no, we want you to be a prostitute.
We're making some videos.
Come on over. Why wouldn't they, if they're paying you $12 an hour, why wouldn't you initiate that conversation if you're Gabrielle? Well, I mean, I guess maybe Gabrielle doesn't seem very necessary here to be making $12 an hour. If I'm the guy, if I'm the pimp, I'm just trying to understand her story as she's relating it. I'm not trying to poke. I'm just saying, if I'm the pimp, why am I paying Gabrielle $12 an hour to do nothing but get me a name that I could get on the front end of a telephone call that I'm going to have to make anyway, explaining to this person that, no, you're not going to be doing a J.C. Penney catalog. You're going to be doing J.C. from Beaumont. You know? Right? If I have to do
you
that.
have such a way with a word.
If I have to do that anyway, why wouldn't I save the $12 on the front end? Makes no sense that Gabrielle wouldn't go ahead and grease the gears.
Careful.
Anyway, Gabrielle.
That was definitely not who I was, but I was definitely in the middle of all of it. I did not know that they had been placing people in an escort service type environment and that they had been taking money. Nor did the police know the level of my activity until they interviewed me and realized that I had not handled any administrative duties. I'd simply answered the phone.
Administrative duty. So her claim is this is perfectly plausible. I think I'm falling on the side of Hanson here. It's perfectly reasonable that an escort service ring in Dallas, Texas in the early 1990s would hire someone that they had no idea who this person was to field telephone calls, not tell her what she was doing, not tell her the nature of the business, so, she could blab all she wants. And once the police got involved, of course, so we're about to hear how the police got involved and they realized that Gabrielle Hansen had no awareness of what she was doing, and they let her go. But that's not what happened.
Given that I was a few months from graduating and had a job in Chicago to take, I just wanted out. I didn't know what the least expensive and the easiest way out was. I priced attorneys. They were $4,000 to $6,000, and I in no way had that kind of money to pay for an attorney.
Wait a minute. You've been making $12 an hour for the last year. What have you been doing with all of your money? That's just me being mean.
So I asked, what was the easiest way out? What can I do? I just want this to go away so I can move on with my life.
Okay, why? Here's what I don't understand. Why, if what she just told us was the truth, is she getting charged with anything? Right? So
Yeah, because from the setup, it's not like they raided the place and it's
Right.
like, oh, you're up front, you're coming with us. You know,
Right.
she's at her house.
She's at her house. They come to her house. They say, "Hey, you've been fit," and you say, "Oh, whoa! I've been fielding calls for J.C. Penney catalogs, and here's all the information, and this is what I tell them when they call me, and this is the information that I get." In a sane world, the police recognize that you're an unwitting accomplice, and maybe they throw a misdemeanor charge at you or whatever, but they're not going to threaten you with a felony. They're not threatening you with jail time if her story's holding up here.
So they said the easiest thing to do would be plead a no contest to one count of promotion of prostitution, which on a penalty scale was similar to a speeding ticket. My punishment for the deferred adjudication was do not live in Dallas for 2 years because they knew I was leaving. I said no problem because I don't ever want to live in Dallas again after.
Okay. Does that sound like an appropriate punishment for someone who had no awareness of what was going on? Look,
it sounds like Old West, get out of town and we won't hang you.
Yeah, right. Don't let the sun hit you where the good Lord split you. Look, her story could be on the up and up. I'm not going to try to poke holes in it.
This experience. So I took the deferred adjudication, pled the no contest, and I moved to Chicago, where I rekindled my love for Christ and realized that Christ had not been number one in my life. He'd been on the back burner. And I asked God to come back in my life and guide me, and please be in front of me, and please take the wheel and guide me in everything that I do, because I had really missed the mark. I gave my life to Christ and I've never turned back, and it's been almost 30 years. So you may hear things out there about what happened and rumors and the way things that change as the story goes on and on to the next person. But that's what happened almost 30 years ago. And I think my record for the 30 years speaks for itself.
I did some bad stuff, but Jesus.
It's the back end of the hostage video that perhaps bothers me more than anything. Because her inclusion, her decision to include the Christ elements of this indicates to me that is supposed to shield her from any criticism. Right? Hey, yeah, don't look into all of this. Don't look into any aspect of my story that I'm telling you. Just vote for me, Gabrielle Hansen, for mayor of Franklin, Tennessee, because after all of this went down, I'm forgiven. Not perfect, just forgiven. Isn't that's what we're supposed to believe?
Yeah. I've been forgiven, so you can't judge me.
Right. And if you do, you're a bad person because I've given my life to Jesus Christ. I hope that she's telling the truth on the back end of this. But if she was, then I feel like she would be telling the truth about more aspects of her candidacy for mayor, like the fact that she decided to use a stock photograph from Chicago, pretend that these people were her friends, and then doubled down on it and lied about it when she was challenged on it by Phil Williams of News Channel 5. Well, there it is for your information and for your edification, particularly those of you who live in Franklin and have to go and vote. I certainly hope you don't vote for this person. It's 12:51 on Super Talk. Hey, friends, Matt Murphy for Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. Jeff Eddy is not the biggest HVAC man in town. He doesn't want to be. He does want to keep his 100% customer satisfaction rating intact. And that is the goal of Jeff Eddy and his crews every time they answer a call and every time they come to your home. Whatever your situation might be in your home, they're going to fix what ails your heater. Now, if it's a maintenance call, you'll never get charged over $125. Jeff Eddy is maintaining that commitment despite the inflation that's going on around the United States of America and around the state of Tennessee. He's maintained that for years now, and he continues to maintain it. $125, no matter how many units you have, that's the max you'll pay, and oftentimes you pay significantly less. If it's time to replace your heater, you don't want to hear it, but Jeff will tell you the bad news. But you know when he tells you that, it's the truth. Oftentimes, people go to Jeff for second opinions with regard to whether to replace or repair their system. Free financing on your next unit. Ask them about that. Diamond contractor with Mitsubishi Electric and an Elite Pro partner with Rheem. 615-784-4424, 784-4424, or efficienthvac.net. You can trust these folks in your home. I know I do, and you can too. Jeff Eddy, Efficient Heating and Cooling.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. We know that diversification is an important part of the investing process, but how do you reduce risk of a portfolio through diversification? Well, you use correlations. Now think of bathing suit sales and suntan oil sales. They tend to move together, right? Think of bathing suit sales versus winter coat sales. More dissimilar movement, and that's the idea. But why is diversification so important? Well, think about it this way. Everybody would like to have this happen with their investments. They just go straight up. But what we know is this is really what tends to happen. Markets may go way up and then down, or down, then way up. Now let's say if we isolate parts of that curve right there, and the first curve right there, and the second curve right there. If you're putting money away for retirement, every time you put money in, if this is what's going on, you're buying more shares. Then just before you retire, the market goes up, you're really happy. If, on the other hand, you keep paying a higher and higher price and then the market goes down, you're really sad. And we can't choose what's going to happen with the market next. But what we can do is what we know through academic research, and there are Nobel Prizes awarded for this, is we can look for things that tend to move in dissimilar fashion. And what happens when we do that, we can reduce the volatility of the portfolio, hence bringing those curves in. Now that's the idea. Now if you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN, the Matt Murphy Show. 1 hour down, 2 more to go. When we return, Merrick Garland's getting grilled on the Hill as we speak. He is speaking before Capitol Hill regarding, well, a number of different issues, and we'll share some of those with you coming up in just a second or two. Thomas Massie grilling him on the prospect of having FBI agents on the ground during the January 6th riots. Lawmakers also pressing Merrick Garland on the issue at the southern border, the border crisis issue that is ongoing, leading to, well, what's going on in New York City, what's going on in the state of Tennessee, what's going on all across the United States of America. We'll discuss that coming up next. By the way, I'm wearing my Fetterman. How am I doing? If you're watching on Super Talk TV, this is Murphy's Fetterman. How you guys like it? 2 more to go on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is hour number 2 of the Matt Murphy Show, Super Talk 99.7 WTN 105 to be precise. Thank you for being out there on this Wednesday edition. What a gorgeous Chamber of Commerce-like day in Music City. Hope it's beautiful where you are. If you're anywhere within the sound of my voice and listening on terrestrial radio, I guarantee you it is. Wherever you might be listening on 99.7 FM, maybe you're listening on the internet stream, or perhaps you're watching us on Super Talk TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. We thank you for your participation in the show today. You're invited to turn a monologue into a dialogue, as I mentioned. 615-737-9986. Always open for telephone conversation, always open for super text conversation. 615-737-9986. John Rose coming up in hour number 3 of the show today. Congressman Rose will be with us to discuss the grilling of Merrick Garland on Capitol Hill today. Jim Jordan is currently going back and forth. I might ask you in 30 or 40 seconds or so, Belkay, to jip some of this joint in progress. So just be aware of that as it gets a little dicey between Congressman Jordan and the Attorney General of the United States. One final cap on our discussion about Gabrielle Hanson, who's running for mayor of Franklin. And then I'll leave it at this. One, another aspect of this that I've not gotten into that needs to be answered is whether or not Gabrielle Hanson has been truthful on her campaign disclosures when she has stated that she has never filed for bankruptcy. Okay? So I don't know what the full story is, but I don't expect that we'll be having a conversation with Gabrielle Hanson anytime soon. I don't know, Belle. Should I put you on that subject? Should I put you on that?
Why not?
You heard him, folks. He asked for it. I mean, I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. Sure.
Well, what's the worst that can happen? She says no, and then we're in this exact same place we are right now.
Well, she might say no, but you go ahead and ask her. But I would ask her the question that she, in 2023, 2021, and maybe 2020, in 3 separate filings, she indicated that she's never filed for bankruptcy in her life. And I'm wondering if maybe that was just an oversight on her part, or if I've received some bad information, because it's my understanding that she did.
Is it personal or businesses that she was involved in? Because those are different, aren't they?
They are. It is different to file bankruptcy. If you create an LLC, I don't pretend to understand some of the nuance of this because I've never formed an LLC, but it's my understanding that's why you do that. That's why you file a limited life.
Personal assets.
You protect your personal assets, and you could file bankruptcy in your business and not file bankruptcy on a personal nature. So maybe that's the answer to our question. I don't know. Perhaps Gabrielle will be good enough to answer that question. Secondarily, I think this merits a response because Ray, loyal listener Ray, has indicated on the super text line that this seems personal. He said, I think the world of you, Matt, but it sounds really personal with you and her, and it shouldn't be. I get this a lot, especially when I identify politicians that I consider to be liars. I've never met Gabrielle Hanson. I've had one conversation with her in my life. It is not personal in as much as I do not know her. I do not know who she is. I hope that she's a good wife and a good mother and a good citizen of Franklin. However, I do not like liars. I wish I could tell you that there was that I've never had a time in my life where I wasn't one. But I went through periods in my life, certainly in my teenage years, obviously, many of us have, but also in my 20s, lying to avoid responsibility for one's actions. And it creates a spiral in one's life that is shameful. It's a shame spiral. I understand that side of it. And I've done things in my past, as most of us have, that we are ashamed of. Shame is, call it what you will, call it God, call it your conscience, call it your spirit, call it your subconscious. shame is your body telling you that something is wrong in your life. And when I encounter politicians that lie with impunity, with no sense of shame, it does become personal with me. I admit that. Because I hate it. I hate it with every fiber of my being. And I hate that they are able to hold control over so many aspects of our lives based on their capacity as elected servants. And they don't have the respect for the citizens that they claim to serve to be truthful. It's a matter of disrespect. And it's not about disrespecting me. It's about disrespecting you. And so often I will harden during these conversations. And in my defense, and I understand that it's off-putting to some people, in my defense, my tone and my approach to these subjects hardens because it pisses me off that they have such disrespect for you. They have no respect for your intelligence. They have no respect for how hardworking and earnest and honest you good people are. And in so many cases, they use you and me for their own purposes. And as much as I can call that out on these airwaves, as much as I can draw attention and light to these types of things going on, I will. So, Ray, respectfully, that's my answer. It is not personal in the sense that I've never met this person. It is personal in the sense of how I fully believe that they are treating you, the people. And I hope that makes sense. All right, so Merrick Garland is done. As I was wrapping up our conversation from last hour, it seems that he has finished up on Capitol Hill. The Garland was pressed on the Department of Justice's Hunter Biden probe. We'll share some of those clips with you. I'm going to vet some of that and get to it coming up in just a couple of minutes. In the meantime, we are going through, I don't know that we are classically in a defined recession, but we are certainly experiencing economic malaise. And one would think that the Treasury Secretary of the United States of America could offer us some reassurance that we will very soon get out of said malaise. Well, said Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen was on MSNBC recently. And I watched this garbage so you don't have to. So, Treasury Secretary, I don't know who this questioner was. I think she's from across the pond. She's one of these rogue agents that Joe and Mika have on their show from time to time. And she's questioning the Treasury Secretary. Why in the world? No, so here's the premise. The setup is this. It might be, as Sebastian Gorka put it on Twitter, the worst interview in the history of interviewing, in the history of television, in the history of the world. So the setup is about 40 seconds long. The answer is actually pretty good. The setup is this. The premise is, with everything that Joe Biden's doing for the world and America, with every good thing that's happening in the economic situation that we're experiencing, with all of the good that's coming out of Bidenomics, why don't the stupid dunderhead people of the state of Tennessee and the rest of flyover country get it? Why don't these people accept the fact that Joe Biden is the best thing since sliced bread when it comes to the American economy? That's the basic setup. Hear it and hear the response. It's 40 seconds of deliciousness.
Answer the riddle that the White House is finding so befuddling, which is, with those good numbers, why are polling amongst the American people so pessimistic about the economy? And I'm wondering if it's that they just, having been through a period of inflation, they fear that inflation might come back again. Those high oil prices that Mika was talking about, the OECD is forecasting slower growth next year, something like 1.3%, I think, for the U.S. Is it just fears about the future? I'm not asking you to play therapist with the American voter, but there seems to be a disconnect between the numbers we're seeing and the way people are feeling about the economy. And how do you account for it?
I agree with you that there's a disconnect, and I don't have a simple and convincing answer.
Answer the riddle that the White House is...
I'm sorry, I restarted it accidentally. So the 40-second setup is premised on the idea that the economy is going well. The questioner, and I think little enough of her that I don't bother to get her name because it really doesn't matter, she has to abide by that premise because that's where MSNBC lives and breathes. So she can't possibly conceive of the idea that the economy is not going as Joe Biden wants us to believe. The economy is not doing what Janet Yellen wants us to believe. The economy actually sucks, and we, the American people, recognize that because we live it on a day-to-day basis. We don't exist in the bubble that is Washington, D.C. We don't live in these ivory towers where they can cast down proclamations from said same without consequence of their actions. We live in the real world where we see grocery prices, we see gasoline prices.
That's what I was going to say. It's like literally all you have to do is go put gas in your car to see that this is a load of crap.
So they have to abide by the setup, the premise that Joe Biden's doing really well. And so they act they're so curious, these commentators. Why is it that the American people don't see this like we do? In other words, why don't they believe our lies? You guys in the White House have set us up. We have to lie for you. We have to claim the economy's going great. We have to claim that, don't worry about the gasoline prices. Don't worry about bread prices. Don't worry about grocery prices. Don't worry about inflation. Don't worry about interest rates. Don't worry about the fact that Matt Murphy, by the way, I'm doing pretty well in the grand scheme of things. Thank goodness. God bless each and every one of you. But I'm not buying a house. I just had this conversation with my family. We're not buying a house because of where interest rates are right now. Now, I understand you marry a house and you date a rate, and you can correct the rate on the back end when things get better. But I don't know when things are getting better. I was talking to a realtor last night during a meeting, and I asked a realtor whose job it is to sell me a house. And I said, would you recommend I buy a house right now? And she said, nope, would not. Do not know when we're getting out of this. But instead of recognizing that the premise of the setup of the question is completely incorrect, they just set up the question.
Also, the riddle that the White House is finding so befuddling, which is with those good numbers, why polling amongst the American people so pessimistic about the economy? And
why are the American people so dumb? That's your question. Why are the American people so stupid that they don't believe our lies?
I'm wondering if it's that they just, having been through a period of inflation, they fear that inflation might come back again, those high oil.
Or maybe they're just afraid. They were just through a period of inflation, and now everything's better, but they're afraid.
Prices that Mika was talking about, the OECD is forecasting slower growth next year, something like 1.3%, I think, for the US. Is it just fears about the future? I'm not asking you to play therapist with the American voter, but there seems to be a disconnect between the numbers we're seeing and the way people are feeling about it.
You know where the disconnect comes from? What do I always tell you guys? It is a basic Murphy's Law of the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Murphy's Law number 147. Democrats think you're stupid. And they believe in the Goebbels logic that if they tell a lie loud enough and long enough, that you will eventually believe it because you're stupid. They think you're dumb. And so it befuddles them as long and as loud as they have told this lie that they can't convince you that it's true. But they can't convince you that this is not a political matter. It's not a political issue. It's not a Donald Trump is racist or a xenophobe issue. It is a real world issue that you experience every day. They're telling you to look at your pocketbook and imagine that there's money there and believe them when they tell you that there is. And it's not true.
The economy, and how do you account for it?
I agree with you that there's a disconnect, and I don't have a simple and convincing answer.
I agree with you that there's a disconnect, and I can't answer your question. Well, maybe she could. Maybe she's not smart enough to get it. Maybe the premise of your question is incorrect, mystery MSNBC lady. Maybe the American economy isn't doing as well as you're trying to convince us it is. What the Biden administration, I will warn you, is doing right now, they're attempting to gaslight you into believing this was Trump's fault. They have set up this, quote, Bidenomics scenario by which Joe Biden is making the economy better, and now they're calling the other side of it Maganomics, as if the Trump administration and Donald Trump is responsible. So Donald Trump is responsible for all the bad in the world and all the bad in the United States of America. And Joe Biden, fight as he must against the MAGA Republicans in Washington, D.C. He can't quite get over the schneid, but he's trying. It's all a bunch of political garbage designed to gaslight you into believing that Joe Biden's doing well from an economic standpoint. And you know. 121 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Speaking of knowing, I think you need to know what's going on inside of your body. And if you don't know, it's time to know with Kraft Body Scan. Kraft Body Scan offers peace of mind. They offer an opportunity for you to examine what's happening inside of your body through a CT scan at Kraft Body Scan in Nashville. And when you do, the actual scan, you'll go through a health consultation. It's a private consultation where they'll sit down with you, learn a little more about you, learn if you have any past issues with your health, learn about if you have any hereditary issues with your health, and then you get scanned right on site. The actual scan, because I've done this, I've done a full body scan, takes about 5 to 8 minutes. Now, folks, I'm a little bit of a hypochondriac, and, I get a little pain here or there, and suddenly I think it's the cancer. I go online, and suddenly before I know it, I got the cancer. Well, you know what? I got peace of mind through Kraft Body Scan because they examined my body and they did not identify any issues. They told me my heart was tip-top. I'm in the top 10 percentile in terms of heart and lung health. This is coming from a guy that smoked for 17 years. I've been quit for a long time, though. So your results are reviewed by a team of providers, and they will tell you of any abnormalities that they find, but most often patients receive their results and they get the thumbs up. They get peace of mind. A heart and lung scan right now for you and a significant other, $149. How about that? Go to craftbodyscan.com, spell craft with a C, craftbodyscan.com, or 615-436-1000, 436-1000, Kraft Body Scan. Super Talk 99.7 WTN 125. Matt Murphy and you until 3 o'clock this afternoon. We hand off to the drive with Brian Wilson at that time. Coming up in the 2 o'clock hour, Cameron Smith will join us. He writes for the Tennessean. He speaks on the radio from time to time. We have him on a weekly basis to speak about matters that matter to you. And we will discuss the border crises that are currently going. I mean, I call them crises because I think there's more than one. I think obviously, the southern border is the southern border, but you've got hot spots along the southern border that have created these zones of just a surge of illegal activity going on the southern border. Merrick Garland's asked about that. Oh, we're all good. It's all good. Don't worry about that. We've got it handled. The Biden administration is actually claiming that the southern border is being handled as best as it could.
I did not say that. That's not true. I did not say that.
Well, I think you did. I don't know that you remember that you did, Mr. President, but I think you did. In the meantime, 4850 says that listening to our show is like listening to white noise. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Hopefully you can fall to sleep.
It is pretty soothing.
No, I think so, too. Yeah, I get that a lot. How calm and soothing my radio presentation is. I don't get worked up about anything. I just really, it's almost like, what's that website? Remember they advertise that it's an app that you can put on your phone?
Calm?
The Calm app,
Yeah.
right? I don't know that I'm white noise. Maybe I'm more like green noise, you know? There's green noise and brown noise.
You're an off chartreuse.
Well, happy to help any way we can, 4850. I appreciate you listening to the show. In the meantime, there are others that have suggestions about what we truly should do regarding our southern border. If you're not familiar with the comedian Louis C.K., this video, it's about a minute and a half long. It was actually filmed, I want to say in January, when he made an appearance on the Joe Rogan show. And it's popping back up because the surge of illegal aliens coming across the southern border is getting to the point that Democrats can't deny the reality of what's going on the southern border. And, of course, you've got Merrick Garland being grilled about this today. Well, I missed it when it first came around, but I did a bit of research and realized that this is some months old. Louis C.K. has a great Hollywood suggestion about what to do regarding the southern border. Now, in the interest of disclosure, there was a time I listen to, kind of blue comedians from time to time. The cursing doesn't bother me as much as it does some. And there was a time where I thought Louis C.K. was hilarious. Irreverent. I mean, not for the faint of heart, but funny. I went away from him when he was destroyed by the hashtag #MeToo movement for making inappropriate actions toward individuals in his business. And if you don't know about that story, you can do your own research. I'm not going to go there because it's salacious. But here's Louis C.K.'s solution to the problem of border security, especially concerning our southern border.
But my feeling is they should open the border, and just let them pour in, let everybody pour in, and then the answer, which is, well, then there'll be all these problems. Yes, there should be. It shouldn't be so great here, is what I'm saying, in America. It shouldn't be. It's a weird thing to sequester a certain group of people and try to keep upping their lifespan and their lifestyle, and just keep trying to increase that for this group of people, and then this pressure of people trying to come in so they can enjoy it. And then it gets worse and worse down here. I mean, I'm not Canada. It's really just from down here. There's something wrong with that. That's not a system that's working. And it forces people to do cruel things to other people. There's a lot of people that die so Americans can be safe. They're just dying, weddings that are drone bombed in Yemen because a guy said something that might have resulted.
But by the way, I was trying not to interrupt Louis C.K.'s dumb train of thought here, but do you know how rare that is that happens? Now, I understand that the Biden administration was responsible for killing innocent people, because they decided that one of the innocent people was not an innocent person, but it turned out that this was a family that they bombed, and maybe that's what he's referencing. But I don't know what that has to do with the southern border. Anyway.
In American insecurity, not even like definite American deaths, but like just so we can breathe a little easier. Folks die. And folks do labor in unsafe places so that we can keep the prices where we like them. There's so much about American life that other people pay for. That's part of it. But also, it's not good for us either. It's not a good way to live in a gated community, you know?
How much you want to bet Louis C.K. lives in a gated community?
No doubt.
What?
I won't take that bet because I don't want to take your money.
I mean,
good way to live in a gated community, you know? If you let folks pour in, like any other wave, it'll kind of slosh, and then things will be different. I don't know, like, what'll really happen? A bunch of people, like, will they just come with knives and start killing everybody?
Yeah,
I don't
some of them
think
will.
so.
Okay, so
he's literally preaching the equality of misery.
Yes, that because there are people who are there's so many things wrong with that 1.5 minute audio clip. It is difficult to unpack it all. I want to encourage you to unpack it. Tell me what is most wrong about what you just heard from this Hollywood elitist. Now, a lot of Hollywood people believe what he just said, and a lot of politicians believe what he just said. Beto O'Rourke was a congressman in the state of Texas, ran for United States Senate, ran for president of the United States, and ran on the premise of open border policies in the United States. Nancy Pelosi believes in it. Many of the Democrats, AOC believes in open borders. We are getting closer and closer to electing a majority of individuals in the Congress of the United States of America that would open up our borders. Did you ever think this would be happening on the southern border right now? So I want to hear from you, 615-737-9986. What is most wrong about what you just heard? And we'll talk about the politics of misery in just a moment. It's 1:32 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Coming up in hour number 3 of the Matt Murphy Show, Congressman John Rose will join us for a good visit regarding impeachment, regarding government shutdown. That is in the midst of a visit with Cameron Smith, who is slated to appear just after 2 o'clock. You on the phones. So the question is, what is the most wrong with Louis C.K.'s analysis? Louis C.K. is a comedian. He was on the Joe Rogan show. This is some months ago, but it's popping back up because of the amount of people that are currently coming across the southern border. And this is a basic concept that I've heard from many limousine liberals, that we should allow others to come into our country because we have it better than other parts of the world, and that we are no better. So my initial question, and I don't want to get in front of your responses, 615-737-9986, because I opened up the phone lines and I'm asking, what is most wrong with the analysis that you just heard? He says it's wrong to live in gated communities. It's wrong to suggest that we think we're better than, and that we should allow these people to come into our country. And much like a wave, he said, the wave sloshes in, and then eventually that wave all settles out. I would suggest that it's more like a tsunami, but that's just me. What is most wrong about this analysis? My first question would be simple. Who's in charge? If we are to allow anyone and everyone to come in, does that mean that anyone and everyone gets to vote on our form of government, or does he give a crap about that? And what does that mean for who's in charge? Who's making decisions about where these people go and what they do? And not just who in the United States is in charge, because understand, if we don't have borders, we're not a country anymore. Like literally. We're not in a country anymore. If you do not have sovereign borders that identify where your governance starts and where it stops, then you are no longer a nation. Literally, we cease to be a nation when we do what Louis C.K. wants us to do, which begs the question, who's in charge? It occurs to me that while he pretends to believe in ultimate equity, which is what he's preaching, what he's really believing in is survival of the fittest. Louis C.K. and other limousine liberals like him, like AOC, like Nancy, like others, I presume like Joe, what they really want is the Hunger Games. Charles is first up with his thoughts on this nonsense. Hey, Charles, how are you?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, sir, Charles. What's on your mind?
Well, the thing I see on it is that what Obama had in his book, they want to bring the United States down to a third world country. In other words, our style of living and everything, and that our ancestors and our forefathers have worked hard, and if we did what them hypocrites are doing, well, we'd all be starving to death. We didn't try to improve our life and everything. It's the biggest bunch of bull crap I've ever heard. But that was it. That was what Obama wanted to do to start with. He wanted to bring the United States down. We need to apologize to these other countries because we've worked hard and we've built up what we've got.
Man, it's well said, Charles, and I can hear the passion in your voice, and I appreciate it. And you're right. I mean, the Obama administration said out loud that they wanted to transform the United States of America. And as Bell K pointed out, what they preached then and what Louis C.K. is preaching now is the equality of misery. If everyone is miserable, then everyone's equal. Forget lifting up individuals and bringing them up to our standard of living. You have to do that in an orderly fashion. You can't allow everyone in because they'll overrun the resources that we have and enjoy in the United States. Now, make no mistake, we are blessed. I've long said, and I could do an entire show on the concept that In the United States of America, long-term poverty is a choice. Let me say that again. In the United States of America, and I always like to add this caveat because it's important we do so, because someone will come on the super text line or give us a call and say, wait a minute, what about absent mental or physical infirmity or defect? Long-term poverty in the United States of America is a choice. Tell me I'm wrong. Does that mean that bad things don't happen to good people? Of course not. Bad things happen to good people. People get knocked around, even in this country. People don't see things coming, and they come and they hit them to the ground. But in the United States, we are so blessed to live in this country where you have the equal opportunity to get back up, to pull yourself up by those bootstraps, and to make something of yourself. And it's one of the harder things in the world to do, to recognize that if you have not been able to do that, then the vast majority of the responsibility in your inability to do that lies in the mirror, not with anybody else. So it is not lost on me that we enjoy blessings of freedom and liberty, the blessing of the United States of America by a condition of our birth. It should not be lost on us that if you, by happenstance, were born in another country, and I can name them, you got no shot, man. As industrious and as brilliant as Headless Bell K is, buddy, you born in Haiti, you got no shot. You've got maybe 0.00001% of a chance to break out of the condition of your birth. So I am in no way suggesting that we do not enjoy blessings in the United States of America. But if we open the doors to all others, they're not going to rise up to our standard of living. That's not the way that it works. Sadly, we will get pulled down. And I don't need to be talked to by Louis C.K. about gated communities. Gated communities don't work. Then why do rich people live in gated communities? And if Louis C.K. really believed it, and a lot of people on the super text line, I've noticed, Bell, are suggesting that I'm missing the joke. That
he's not joking. I know his comedy well.
I do too.
Yeah.
I feel like I do too. And there would be a pretty obvious punchline on the back end of what he's saying. He's being dead serious.
Yeah.
And sadly, he lives in such an isolated environment that he doesn't see the hypocrisy in what he's saying. That while he lives in a gated community, while he enjoys, his own security that provides him the freedom to move about the country without fear of reprisal or fear of attack, he doesn't need to own a gun because he's got security guards that do. And he can wag his finger about America being a gated community while he drives into his and watches the gates close behind him. Steve is in Sparta. We'll get to you. Oh, Steve, you missed out by a minute or two from Joe. Joe goes first from Smyrna. Hey, Joe, how are you?
Well, I'd like to say you've covered just about everything that I wanted to comment on. I have been to Mexico, and I saw how those people live down there. And, brother, you're right. We are blessed. And at the same time, I would like to tell you and everyone else who considers themselves to be middle class that if you had to raise your children in the situations that are going on in Mexico today, you would fight and die trying to get them into this country and provide a better future for them. I say that to say this. Yes, there's a right way to come into this country, and we don't want the problems that they're bringing with them. But there are a good percentage of the people that are good, honest, hard-working people who just want a shot at what we've got. If they want to come in this country the right way, I don't see anything wrong with it. But we need to vet the people that come in and do our best to have a support system for those who do it the right way. That's all I'd like to say, and y'all have a great day, okay?
Joe, great call, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. Some of the finest Americans that I've ever met in my life were not born here. They came here. They went through the rigors of doing it the right way.
Talking about Barack Obama? I'm just kidding.
And those that did do it the right way, by and large, I mean, if I put an open call out to immigrants that came to the United States of America legally and that have been here for some amount of time to call this radio show and to talk about their past experience, they understand the nature of a country that doesn't believe, as we have in our past, in freedom and liberty and the value of the human experience and the value of individual rights. And the importance of demanding that our elected officials live up to the concepts presented by the Founding Fathers. They understand what life could be like in other countries because they've been there. And so they have the very direct juxtaposition. Some of the finest Americans I've ever met in my life were not born here. And they see the value. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. Second thing I would say to Joe's call, Joe, there but for the grace of God go I. It is easy for us to say that were we born in another country that we would not violate the law to come to the United States of America. I think it's way too easy. The onus is on us as an American population and our elected leaders to determine what our immigration policies should be and not allow it to be a free-for-all, which is what we're currently seeing on the southern border. That is on us. But if I were born in Mexico City or in Guatemala or in Haiti, and I got to the point where I had a family and I was trying to make ends meet on $3 or $4 a week, and you're telling me that I can come to the United States of America and commit an illegal act that in my mind is harming no other person, and I can benefit my family and turn $5 a week into $12 an hour to benefit my family? You damn right I would. Of course I would. Does that make it right? No. That's just honest. It is on us to insist on an orderly process by which you are allowed to immigrate into the United States of America. And by the way, everybody wants to come here. As nasty and awful as the liberals talk about this country with regularity, everybody still wants to come here, man.
Nobody's building rafts out of garbage to get into Cuba.
Amen, brother. I mean, they're not having to hold the doors closed in Venezuela right now. No! No more immigration. They don't have the no vacancy sign on. It's 150 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. How do you keep your important valuables safe and secure from theft or from fire? Do you hide them under a bushel? No. I don't know why that came to, I don't know why I said that. Nashville Safe House is the way to do that. Don't hide them in a box under your bed. Don't hide them in a drawer in your bedroom. Don't hide your guns in that fashion because you're just asking for theft or for fire to take away the valuable possessions in your life. What you need is a safe from Nashville Safe House. Go talk to Mark and his team. Tell him I said that you don't hide it under a bushel. No, let your guns shine with a nice safe. I'm trying to figure out a way to work that circle. It's not working. I got a lot of different brands to tell you about, like Browning. They're the finest Browning dealer in the United States of America. They got more Brownings than you can imagine, and rebates are still going on. They got Fort Knox. They've got any brand you can imagine at Nashville Safe House, and they can protect those things that protect you and the family, and they can protect your valuables besides. So gun safes, they got them. Corporate safes, don't worry about it. They'll take care of you. Vault doors, they've got that too. Jewelry safes of a smaller size, or even biometric safes to go on the bedside to protect that one gun that protects your family. They can do that as well. Go to Nashville Safe House online at NashvilleSafeHouse.com, or better yet, 4th Avenue South, just across the street from City Cemetery. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Nashville Safe House.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. We know that diversification is an important part of the investing process, but how do you reduce risk of a portfolio through diversification? Well, you use correlations. Now think of bathing suit sales and suntan oil sales. They tend to move together, right? Think of bathing suit sales versus winter coat sales. More dissimilar movement, and that's the idea. But why is diversification so important? Well, think about it this way. Everybody would like to have this happen with their investments. They just go straight up. But what we know is this is really what tends to happen. Markets may go way up and then down, or down then way up. Now let's say if we isolate parts of that curve right there, and the first curve right there, and the second curve right there. If you're putting money away for retirement, every time you put money in, if this is what's going on, you're buying more shares. Then just before you retire, the market goes up, you're really happy. If on the other hand, you keep paying a higher and higher price, and then the market goes down, you're really sad. And we can't choose what's going to happen with the market next. But what we can do is what we know through academic research, and there are Nobel Prizes awarded for this, is we can look for things that tend to move in dissimilar fashion. And what happens when we do that, we can reduce the volatility of the portfolio, hence bringing those curves in. Now that's the idea. Now if you want to learn more about our approach to investing in financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN 158. A quick timeout. Top of the hour news coming up with Mac Morey. Standing by in the newsroom. Cameron Smith in the third hour of the show. We'll continue to take your telephone calls at 615-737-9986. Plus, Congressman John Rhodes joins us. Number of questions to ask John about regarding the possibility of impeaching the President of the United States of America, Joe Biden, the possibility of a government shutdown, where we are from an economic standpoint. All of these questions will be asked and answered coming up just after Mac Morey's newscast. And in the meantime, there's this. I've been vetting and cultivating some of the better clips from AG Merrick Garland's appearance on Capitol Hill today. He is still answering questions as we speak. This one pretty good.
Mr. Weiss has full authority to bring cases in other jurisdictions if he feels it's necessary. That was your response, Attorney General, to Senator Grassley's question on March 1st, 2023. You just referenced it when Mr. Bishop was questioning you. Only problem is he'd already been turned down by the U.S. Attorney in the District of Columbia, Mr. Graves. So he didn't have full authority, did he?
I had an extended conversation with Senator Grassley at the time. We briefly touched on the Section 515 question and how that process went. I've never been suggesting...
My point's real simple, Mr. Garland. You said he had complete authority, but he'd already been turned down. He wanted to bring an action in the District of Columbia, and the U.S. Attorney there said, no, you can't. And then you go tell the United States Senate under oath that he has complete authority.
I'm going to say again that no one had the authority to turn him down. They could refuse to partner with him. They could.
That's my favorite. They didn't turn him down. They just refused him. More coming up in a moment. Hour number 3 after this on The Murphy Show.
It's 2 o'clock. I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. Right now, 86 degrees, a mostly sunny day on Music Row. A little hotter than the rest of the week has been, as you just heard Matt Murphy talking about. Got live updates right here on Super Talk about Attorney General Merrick Garland testifying and facing questions on the Hunter Biden and Donald Trump trials. Stay here for more audio right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Staying in the nation's capital, the federal government spending showdown appears to continue inside the Capitol as House Republicans remain divided on whether to keep the government open past the September 30th deadline with a continuing resolution or shutter the doors until a full agreement can be reached. Tennessee 5th District Congressman Andy Ogles tells WTN's Chris Hanshaw.
The big holdup for a lot of us at the end of the day is the spending level. Going back to pre-COVID.
And Speaker McCarthy today expressing optimism they will solve this problem, and Congressman Ogles says he's ready and willing to stay in D.C. this weekend to try. Crime in Tennessee, a man in critical condition after getting shot in South Nashville. This happened last night while a man was sitting in his car with his girlfriend when 19-year-old Eduardo Paz shot multiple times through their front windshield and hood. Paz was armed with a semi-automatic rifle. He's now in custody, and officials say that Paz is the ex-boyfriend of the victim's current girlfriend. And the man accused in an ambush killing of a Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputy on Saturday is now officially charged with murder and has appeared in court. Alex Stone gives us the latest from Los Angeles.
Wearing a blue protective vest and no shirt underneath, 29-year-old Kevin Salazar, accused of murdering Deputy Ryan Klinkenbroomer last weekend, sat behind glass listening to the judge. A plea of not guilty with a dual plea of not guilty by reason of insanity filed on his behalf. Judge Scott Yang reading the plea.
Not guilty by reason of insanity with all denials of any and all special allegations.
Salazar's family claims he has long suffered from paranoid schizophrenia.
And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Matt Murphy. We host a gathering together from noon, right around the lunchtime hour, until 3 o'clock. We call it the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We are pleased, I should say, that you have decided to join us. Cameron Smith will join us in the next few moments. He's running a little bit behind. Another person that's running just a little bit behind would be Dan Mandis. He says that he's running behind in his listening habit, but he had a message for you and I, Bell. The illustrious Dan Mandis, host of Nashville's Morning News, program director of Super Talk 99.7 WTN. He's running behind. That's your one hint.
It was, leave me alone.
That is not correct.
Don't bother me.
He said, I'm way behind, but Bell is right. She does have amazing music. And, dude, the one song you should listen to is Style by Taylor Swift.
Okay, Dan, you just guaranteed he won't listen to it. Now I'm going to have to use it as a bumper or something.
In Dan's defense, I wasn't going to anyway. So there's that. There's that contribution from Mandis. We appreciate you. Congressman John Rose joins us on the Murphy Show hotline. I know his time is so limited. You got votes. You got a lot of things going on Capitol Hill. Congressman, thank you for making yourself available to Middle Tennessee. We appreciate you. How are you, John?
It's good to be with you. I'm doing great. Thank you.
I know that at any moment you might have to go to votes. Just tell me if you have to, and we'll suspend the conversation because that's far more important than little old me, John. But I wanted to catch up with you and ask you about some of the things going on Capitol Hill, not the least of which is the specter, the possibility of yet another government shutdown. It seems that these things come up almost on a bi-monthly basis or whatnot. And we've got the end of the fiscal year right around the corner on September 30th, and there's a possibility that we might foresee a government shutdown. Tell me what you know about it.
Well, first of all, Matt, thanks for having me on your show today and on WTN. I appreciate it and appreciate the opportunity to represent the people of the 6th District of Tennessee. And you're right, we've got just, 10 days here until we reach the end of the month and the specter of a shutdown. And that does no one any good, frankly. And I think in this case will be particularly harmful to Republicans and our efforts to restore fiscal responsibility and really claim the initiative and continue to have the initiative here in Washington. So we're working hard to try to find a compromise and a deal so that we can kind of put the ball, hit the ball into the Senate's court and force them to reckon with this. For us on the Republican side, this is about being sensible about getting budget, appropriations to a level that is sustainable, sending us in the right direction, stopping the just runaway spending of the Biden administration, and also addressing maybe one of the most critical issues facing the country in recent years, and that is the chaos at the southern border. And so we have a bill that's up for a vote tomorrow. I think there's still some discussion being done about whether we can get the votes that we need, 218 votes to pass it on the House side, but it would address the southern border situation in a way that I think would be very positive for the country going forward and that the American people would embrace. And it makes real cuts during a 30-day emergency extension of the current fiscal year spending. A 1% cut, but it's important to note that in many areas that will be a much higher level of cut. So, the Senate will almost certainly want to have a say in that. So there'll be a further negotiation, but I think it would be the best way for House Republicans to continue to claim the initiative.
We just passed $33 trillion in debt. And that's on the backs of the grandchildren and the great-grandchildren of the people listening to this radio show. For many, it is maybe you would characterize it, John, I don't know. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but as an simplification of the budgetary process. But for many folks, they can appreciate the idea of shutting the government down until we get some physical sanity back in our budgeting process. How do you respond when folks back in the home district talk to you about these things?
Sure. So I share the view that, that $33 trillion, it mortgages our children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren's future, and it's really immoral that our generation burdening them with that and limiting the potential that they might have in their lives by giving them that much debt. But we have to be realistic about the process in Washington. The founders gave us a process. It's a very cumbersome process, and there's really no good way to short-circuit it. So we have to, we didn't get here in one giant step, and we're not going to get back to the right spot in one giant step. What we've got to do is start taking the steps, turning this aircraft carrier that is our country, and we started that with the Fiscal Responsibility Act. Some of us wanted to go further, including me, and that's why I voted against it. I did vote for Limit, Save, Grow back in the spring, which I thought was a better step in the right direction. And so we need to make a further step here, and that's what we're trying to do. We can't do it all at once, and so when we shut down the government, Republicans and conservatives and those of us who want to restore fiscal responsibility, we're going to be the ones that lose. Because, first of all, it's a huge waste of money. Government employees are going to be furloughed, but then it's just a paid vacation for them. And then it creates all sorts of additional costs to the American people and damages the economy. And it will politically damage Republicans because we'll be blamed. Now, we might be blamed regardless, but if we can kick the ball to them, and force them to come to reckon with a reasonable proposal from the House, I think we stand a better chance. So we look like the adults in the room. We're not the ones that are setting the stage for a shutdown. We are providing a path forward, just as we did back in the spring. And so that's what I hope we're able to work out and get accomplished on the House side.
Congressman John Rose of the 6th Congressional District of the state of Tennessee joining us on the show today in between votes. And I so appreciate you doing that, John. I know time there's a crunch going on right now, but let's talk about impeachment. I fully believe
I'm
that.
sorry, Matt, but you got to run. I have to go make that.
Well, I get it. I understood that. John, we'll talk again very soon. Thanks for the time that we had.
Yes, thank you.
No, it's no problem. John, well, there he goes. John made us aware that the possibility existed that he would have to go to a vote. I was about to hit him with a zinger too. I was about to come with a. Oh, it was a gotcha. It was one of those gotcha where Rose. Oh, you got me, Murphy.
Well, I want to hear it.
No, I'll save it till next time.
Okay.
I don't want to waste it.
Okay.
Cameron Smith joins us of the Tennessean. He writes for the Tennessean. He speaks on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. And that worked out.
Yeah.
Because you were just a tad delayed. Mm-hmm. John was a tad early. And so it kind of worked out for us. How about that?
And he's right. Man, I mean, the spending, COVID broke the system, and now conservatives saying, hey, let's just get back to pre-COVID levels. Like, this isn't like austerity. It's just pre-COVID levels. The problem is counting. They don't have enough conservatives to actually do that. And it is awful.
It is awful because we recognize, the average folks, we don't want to hear, what John just said is not wrong. Mm-hmm. But I don't think we want to hear this anymore. We don't want to hear how difficult the process is anymore.
Right.
We're just sick of it.
Yeah.
We're sick of the overspending. We're sick of sending people, and I'm not talking about John specifically, but we're sick of sending people that characterize themselves as fiscal conservatives to Washington, D.C. just to watch them vote the expenditure of money that we don't have that'll be on the backs of our grandchildren.
So reasonably, you've got, we'll call it 40 members who are dedicated to serious reductions in spending. 40 out of the entire House of Representatives. Over in the Senate, call it 20, 30. And so there's a math problem here that I can promise, if I'm Andy Ogles or John Rose or other folks, I can promise I'm going to go to Washington and cut spending, but you don't have the numbers. Like there is a business as usual attitude amongst Republicans and Democrats that's devastating. And so the truth is, moving spending in a more conservative direction is the win. That's it.
Until they see some level of comeuppance from the voters.
Yeah.
They're going to continue to do what they're doing. Because as much as we talk about it and as much as we, blah, 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 $33 trillion.
Yeah.
If the voters voted in accordance with their frustration over the overspending, they would send conservatives to Washington, D.C. that are actually going to do something about it.
So we as voters don't actually care. And I just want to put a fine point on it. We say it's bad.
We say we do.
But we don't. And we might.
There's no political ramification for overspending in Washington. Right. Not a real one.
Zero. It is, you're selling cauliflower if you're trying to say, I want to give you less goodies. That's basically like saying, I'm going to pre-COVID. They just took a hose of money and just sprayed it everywhere. And instead of folks being like, well, actually, this is irresponsible and we shouldn't do it, they're like, I'll dance for you. Give me the dollar. I mean, that's what we're up against.
Cameron Smith with us for the final hour of the show today on this Wednesday edition, as he is often, on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We were discussing before you got here, and several people have carried over since then. And in the spirit of asking for those calls, I want to get back to them, but I'll circle back.
Sure.
Liberals and their concepts of how to handle the border amuse me. I played this Louis C.K. clip where he's like, open everything up. Gated communities don't work. Like, then why do all the rich people that I know live in gated communities if they don't work? I mean, if they work in the microcosm, they'll work in the macrocosm.
My response is do it. Yep. Listen to him. That's a great idea because Republicans will be in office for 1 million years. I mean, Democrats
are they doing it right now, though?
Yes. So when Democrats are hollering about immigration being an issue, when New York City is like, hey, guys, this is not working
when
anymore.
Joe Biden is avoiding meeting with Eric Adams, a fellow Democrat.
Right. Like, this is a loser. It used to be more of a parochial issue for Republicans that, like, drove Republican turnout, but Democrats were like, y'all are weird. Now Democrats are like, oh, man, this is having a real impact in urban centers that we control, and we don't like it anymore. And if the answer is, well, we need to keep open borders, let them through. America doesn't need to be this great.
Yeah, America needs to tone down the level of greatness.
We should. I mean, really. I mean, you want to run with that? Like, I thought it was a joke. Like, I thought it was
and
you're
a lot
a comedian.
Of people did.
It's humor.
A lot of people did, and I know Louis C.K. from way back, and I was a fan of his before a lot of the crap went down in his life. And he's not for everybody because he's blue. I mean, he's as blue as they get. But for a second, I thought, oh, he's setting something up.
Mm-hmm.
Nope, not setting something up. Dead serious. And sadly, it would not be a point to make except for the number of leftists in Washington, D.C. that essentially agree with him. I think AOC essentially agrees with Louis C.K.
Maybe. I mean, I don't think they're in any way serious about, well, we've got under Mayorkas and Biden saying, oh, yeah, we got it under control. No, you don't. You do not. And everyone knows it. I mean, like, it's a poorly held secret. It's going to start impacting Democrats because Democrats are talking about, hey, this is an issue. You need to deal with it. They'll ignore Republicans all day long. But when Democrats start saying it, it's like...
Can affect the base.
It's serious.
Karen, toward that end, in Spring Hill, has been holding for some time. Karen, thank you for your patience. Good afternoon. How are you?
Very good. How about you?
I'm well. What's on your mind?
So my husband and I immigrated with 2 children 23 years ago, back in 2000. And what we're seeing in this country is almost like deja vu for us, because South Africa considered to be a first world country and a third world continent. Well, when the communist government took over back in 1994, the first thing they literally did was open up the borders. Companies started fleeing to other countries. Our unemployment rate skyrocketed. It went over 40% in less than 12 months. And, of course, you can imagine what happened next was the crime rate went out of control.
Right.
South Africa is considered the rape capital of the world, the crime capital of the world. So I hope Americans are ready for the next ride.
You've been here, how long you say, Karen? 23 years?
23 years.
Tell me what your thoughts were prior to coming to America about this country and how they've evolved over those 23 years, if you don't mind.
So, well, the reason my husband and I decided to immigrate was we saw the trajectory of South Africa. We saw where it was going. My dad was an American, and I was like, you know what? I need to get these kids out of here because I just don't see a future. So we started the process. We got our visas back in 99, and we literally packed up, sold up everything, and left. And we came with the attitude is we have no choice but to make this work. We have to make this work for the future of our children. And it has been absolutely the best decision we ever made.
So where are you moving next?
Nowhere. We don't have a choice. We're in the part of this country.
I'm kind of joking, but it begs the question of like you see lessons learned from South Africa's experience. I mean, what would you tell policymakers here? What should we do about it?
I wish I could tell you over the air what I would really tell them, but they need to get their stuff together because they are ultimately piece by piece breaking this country down.
And when and the point that Cameron makes so well, and Karen, you know it because you've lived a life experience closer to the issue, that if America ceases to be that beacon, I don't know that there is one.
There's a really cool book called Atlas Shrugged. You should check it out.
Yeah, I've seen a word or two about it. Karen, thank you for the call. I got to scoot. I want to get to Jennifer real quick. Jennifer, you're up next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. How are you?
I'm fine, sir. And you?
I'm well. What's on your mind?
Well, we've been here for 45 years. We migrated here in the 1980s, and my entire family. My grandparents worked so hard to bring us through the front door. And as someone who was 12 or 13 years old when we came here, I was forced to get butt naked in front of someone who's very much 10 times bigger than I was. And I was told to pull my underwear down. And then yet we got these people crossing the border without any limitations whatsoever. I've been traumatized and never spoken about this to anybody until now. My husband is a retired Navy and he's legally blind because of the VA. But I love this country so much that even with my condition, physical limitation, I would fight for this country. This is the best country in the world. And we're letting people who are not here for the best of this country, but to destroy it. And we've seen it every day. I grew up knowing freedom. I do not recognize our country anymore. Jennifer, this is not what America is all about. We're a country of laws. And what happened? Does the law only apply to those that are from Asia and now from the one side of the border? What's happening?
Well, that's a great question. Where did you immigrate from, if you don't mind my asking?
The Philippines.
Philippines.
I'm going to tell you a story, one thing. When my mom became a U.S. citizen, she cried. She came out with cancer. It upset her so much. She said, so my citizenship is worth nothing that I'm now dying. She loved this country. And if she would have seen what is going on, she'd be very heartbroken today. And as I said, I was traumatized. And I am going to do something about that because if they're letting people cross the border for free, I want a refund.
Wow.
That is a great quote.
It's a strong and powerful quote.
And Matt, I will say, one thing to be clear on is if you feel like a crime was committed against you when you immigrated, you do need to reach out to law enforcement
regardless of when it was.
Period. And let them know.
My husband is hiring a lawyer even this 45 years ago because if they can bring charges against President Trump after 40 years, then they can do the same for me and do a favor for me and violate and then arrest those who violated my rights. That was actually sexual assault, by the way, to have me as a 12 years old to take off all my underwear and show my private parts. For a small little girl back then, can you just imagine what the fear that was put on me?
I can't imagine. I can't, and I hesitate to even think on it. Jennifer, look, I know this. Let us know the results of whatever you're able to discover through you and your husband. Secondarily, know that I'm hugging your neck through the radio right now. I'm hugging your neck through the telephone.
You,
I love you.
Thank you. God bless the United States, and God bless President Trump.
Well, God bless you, too. What a statement. If this is the way they're going to let people in, where does she go to get a refund?
I want a refund.
My goodness. 23 after the hour. I'm telling you, the most patriotic Americans you'll ever find in your life were not born here because they know. They know more than you or I can possibly understand what the other side looks like. It's 2:23 on Super Talk. I'm 34 pounds less of a man. That's thanks to PhD weight loss. Yes, I believed in it when I first started the program, but I didn't understand the ease of the program. Two things. One, the simplicity of the program. Dr. Ashley Lucas has prepared something that is easy enough that even I understand it. That if you just follow the basic guidelines, you don't get hungry because you're eating 5 times a day. You don't get hungry because you're eating 5 times a day. You're eating the right things. And in doing so, you're eliminating the bad out of your life and you're shedding the weight that you've been wanting to lose for some time. She makes it so easy, does Ashley Lucas and the PhD weight loss program. Most men lose right around 3 to 5 pounds per week. I've been right there in that zone. Ladies, you lose between 2 and 3 pounds per week. That's not personal. That's just genetic. But here's the deal. The guarantee is simple. PhD weight loss guarantees that you'll get within 5 pounds of your target weight by the end of your program. And if you don't, they'll continue to coach you for free until you do. Can't ask for more than that. Go to myphdweightloss.com to find out more information about the program itself. I'm telling you, I've lost the weight. I continue to lose the weight. I'm proud to tell you about it. I love when people say, man, you've slimmed down. Yes, I have. Thank you, PhD Weight Loss. myphdweightloss.com. That's myphdweightloss.com.
A government shutdown looming, some crime in Tennessee, plus some money news, taking a look at interest rates, that and more. 2:30 Super Talk, 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mac Morey. 227, almost 228, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Merrick Garland continues his grilling on Capitol Hill, the House Judy Committee, questioning the Attorney General of the United States, and he's very confused about some of these questions. I'm going to get the snap reaction from one Cameron Smith over this clip where, let's just listen to it without comment.
Mr. Garland, have you or are you investigating who leaked the information that appeared in the Washington Post on October 6, 2022 about this investigation, about the Hunter Biden investigation?
You're saying there was an October 2022...
October 6, 2022, Washington Post writes a story about the Hunter Biden investigation. I wonder, have you investigated who leaked that information to the Washington Post?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Has it been referred to the Inspector General? Do you know that?
I don't want my answer to suggest that there is or isn't such an investigation. I know that the Inspector General sent a letter to Congress explaining that he had an ongoing assessment with respect to the whistleblower's charges. I don't know if that's what you're referring to.
There's your Biden administration in a nutshell, everybody.
I don't know.
I got no clue what's going on.
I've listened to a lot of this hearing today, and I get it. Garland is there to play defense. He's not there to basically hand over information to Republicans that they can beat Biden with. But the way he pivots is not natural. And it's a problem because it sounds like what the clip you just played. It's very
That's why I played it. It's very odd.
I don't
know the answer.
I don't want my answer to sound like an answer. So right. And that's the problem.
No, they're doing it at the Attorney General's office, and the Biden administration, I don't know if this is new in politics. It feels new, or maybe it's just more raw and less nuanced than we're accustomed to. Because you go to Karine Jean-Pierre, who's supposedly the spokesperson, and you ask her questions, and she refers you to everybody else.
Right.
And you go to everybody else, and they refer you to everybody else.
Exactly.
And on it goes, right? And so they have several of these, quote, special investigations that they've created, and they seem to exist solely for the purpose of giving them political cover.
Yes. You got it, Matt. Congratulations.
Yay! We won!
Well, but this is we've been playing hide the ball for a long time in politics. But the issue here, what I need Republicans to do is in listening to this hearing, they were not letting Merrick Garland answer. When your opposition sounds like that, you need to let them talk.
Let them.
And instead, there was a guy, I don't know, but he was a Republican. I couldn't place who it was. But was literally rapid fire dropping questions on his head. No room for him to answer. And he came across as a jerk. And I'm like, Merrick Garland, given the opportunity to answer this question, is going to fumble. So let him answer the question.
The lawmakers' egos, and they've been doing this for a long time. They allow and frankly, the Democrats do the same thing. Republicans do the same, where they have this series of, they know they're time limited, and they just allow their egos to get in front of the purpose. And the purpose is to make Merrick Garland either answer or look like the bumbling fool that he is.
Well, I think that Jim Jordan should have, and I'm sure he did, working in Congress, like typically they have a meeting before they go into the hearing, and he should have said, guys, if he starts really struggling,
let him.
And instead, Republicans are like, there is airtime to be occupied by my mouth. And I'm like, no, let Merrick Garland. Like he's talked so much he can barely talk. He sounds like a frog, and he's struggling to get the answers out. So keep him talking versus you talking.
And he'll say beautiful and wonderful things. I know we've got to go to the news. He'll say beautiful and wonderful things like this.
No one that I know of has spoken to the White House about the Hunter Biden case.
I'm wondering then. Okay, I got.
No. Of course not. Back in a moment, Mac Morey's online with the news at 232 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.232, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. Currently 86 degrees on Music Row. Full weather forecast in 2 minutes. The Speaker of the House said he would continue to work through disagreements from within his own party to pass a stopgap measure aimed at keeping the government open until October 31st. Im Nguyen has the latest from Washington.
With the potential government shutdown looming just 11 days away, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy is comparing current negotiations to a sports game in overtime.
Did you quit before the game was over? If you went into overtime, did you quit during that time too? I think this is where the most significant change happens.
Last night, a handful of House Republicans sank a separate defense spending bill, signaling ongoing turmoil from within the party over how to keep the next fiscal year funded.
And Tennessee Representative Andy Ogles said today on WTN's The Chris Hands Show that he's willing to stay over the weekend to work out a deal. Crime in Tennessee, Fox 17 reporting that 52-year-old Felix Keel, a convicted felon, was chased down this morning and arrested. It started Monday night when police saw Keel in a stolen vehicle. They tried to pursue him. He got away. Keel then is currently on supervised felony probation until 2028. And Keel had an open bottle of whiskey in the center console while driving when they caught him last night. He's being held on an $80,000 bond. And some money news, the Federal Reserve announced today they have chosen to leave its benchmark interest rate unchanged for now, leaving many Americans to breathe a sigh of relief as the feds look to see what needs to happen next. Alexis Christoforous.
This is the second time this year that the Fed has left interest rates unchanged as they try to see the results of those 11 interest rate hikes since last March. What is that really doing to the economy and to inflation? We've seen inflation come down from its peak of 9% last year, but at 3.7%, it's still far away from the Fed's 2% target.
And that's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
It is a dangerous world. The world seems to be changing before our very eyes. But I'll tell you this, Brink Fiddler, it's good to have him there. It's good to have Defense Systems there. What are they? They're a life safety and security consultation firm right here in Middle Tennessee. They specialize in physical security consultation and active violence mitigation. That's a fancy way of saying they're going to make you safer by giving you knowledge and information about what you need to do in your place of business, in your school, in your church, in case something bad goes down. They can provide custom protection solutions unique to your location and or unique to your own security issue. They've trained multiple Middle Tennessee schools. They do this on almost a daily basis. They train individuals in your place of business. They can find the ways to make you more safe. Hope is not a plan, folks. The odds of a workplace violence situation escalating into, for example, gunfire are minuscule. But they're not zero, and that's the point. Let's get trained with Defense Systems. Reach out today at 615-236-6484, 236-6484, or defensesystems.com. That's defensesystems.com. I love all of the fine sponsors that I talked to you about on the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. But I got to tell you, the Glock store in particular makes it so easy because they are so simply the best in the industry in Middle Tennessee in what they do. And what they do, well, ultimately, they are there to help facilitate and protect your Second Amendment rights and to help you in that regard. So they sell you guns. Glocks, of course they sell Glocks. The name is Glock Store, but they also have other handguns, other long guns. They've got anything that you could imagine putting in your gun safe right there at the Glock Store. Plus, they have accessories. They have performance parts that they manufacture right on site, meaning the cost is going to be a lot less for you than it might be for a guy across the country because you're right here in Nashville, and they'll install for free while you wait. The other component of this is the shooting rooms, which I talked to Lenny McGill about, months ago, and he said, Murph, you don't live your life in a shooting lane, right? You don't have to engage in a real-life scenario in a shooting lane. So we wanted to make it more realistic, not completely 100%, but as realistic as possible in terms of your training process, and that's where the shooting rooms come in. So go to shoot270.com or glockstore.com for more information, and go and see the big, the bright, the best, the world-famous Glock Store. Airlane Drive, minutes away from the sound of my voice, just off of Elm Hill Pike. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you to the world-famous Glock Store. As I've decided I want to call it, it's Super Duper Talk on 99.7 on your FM dial. I want to change the name of the radio station to Super Duper Talk.
Super Duper?
Dan won't let me. By the way, speaking of Dan Mandis, he's listening to the show right now, it's my understanding. And several people and I'm not making this up, Bell. Were you listening to his show this morning? You know, Dan did the show from home today.
Yeah.
Did you hear why he did the show from home today?
I figured Amy made him.
I mean, yeah, that's a basic assessment. So Amy's, I think, out of town, and so he had to handle Riker.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that's close enough.
Makes sense.
Wait a minute. Is that the dog he watches Comcast Xfinity with?
No, that's his stepson.
Riker's his stepson. You're thinking of Bandit. The one where he watches Xfinity with Bandit and then apparently opens the door and allows Bandit to roam the neighborhood freely without leash. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one.
Hey, Cameron, do you know what Riker calls Dan?
Oh, no.
What his nickname is?
I don't think he calls him this anymore.
He does.
You know what? I don't even have a dog in this fight, and it makes me uncomfortable.
Jasmine. That's what Riker calls Dan.
He doesn't call him that.
That is really
Jasmine.
I want to ask about that, but I also don't want to know. So it's good.
See, I've heard this in the past, and I don't want to know. So let's not go there. But I cannot hear the word Jasmine and not think of a story about Matthew McConaughey that I love relating. I don't know why it amuses me the way that it does, but, you know, McConaughey is a lot of things. I just think McConaughey's a cool guy. I mean, he's maybe not, and I know he's probably liberal or whatever. All right. That's what I like about high school girls, man. I keep getting older, and they always stay the same.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. The line of that movie, though, Dazed and Confused, if you don't know what we're talking about, is the freshman kid gets in his car, and he says, "Hey, kid, you got a joint?" And the kid goes, "No, man. It'd be a whole lot cooler if you did." I don't know why. But the story about Jasmine, he tells his story. Matthew McConaughey got arrested at his house for smoking weed, large amounts of weed, you know, as he is wont to do.
And playing bongo drums naked.
And so the cops got to his house. He opens the front door. This wave of dope smell comes through the thing, and he is naked holding a set of bongos.
It's fair.
And so once they get control of the situation, they start asking him questions. They're like, "We got called by your neighbors because way over there they could smell the dope. Why didn't you just close your windows, man?" And McConaughey's response was, "Because I wanted to smell the jasmine." Of course. Okay.
And there's probably a similar story with Dan Mandis.
And I just want Riker to be 30 years old still calling him Jasmine.
Yeah, well.
I'm on record as saying that if I were the arresting police officer, if he had told me that, I would have immediately released him from the handcuffs and let him go.
Yeah. Well, don't worry. It's about to be, Schedule 3. So,
Yeah.
we'll have fun.
That's not turning out the way that I had hoped.
What do you mean?
Like, I'm a libertarian, and I believe in decriminalizing, that sort of thing. I believe you ought to be able to do with your body what you choose to do with your body, and it's not turning out the way that I had hoped.
Every year, I'd like to pull the FBI's report on drug-related deaths. And the number next to cannabis is always 0.
It's always 0.
And
it is true.
And so they're like, well.
But sadly, you cannabis freaks that I've defended over the last 25 years, you're making a fool out of me. Because look at you people. Look at you.
You look like Fetterman.
I mean, yes.
Come on.
You look like the United States Senator. Oh, by the way, I'm in
Matt.
I'm in my Fetterman. Look.
Matt.
What?
Hell in their own fashion.
That's true.
That's
true. No, I don't disagree with it. It's harder and harder to argue. He's quoting me to me. Every man deserves to go to hell in his own
senators all Republican senators should get matching hoodies and just go to the floor.
All right, so I've got to finish this up. We'll talk about the hoodie thing. So the thing that I needed to send, the message that I needed to send to Mandis before Bell started talking about his nickname Jasmine was several Super Talk texters are asking me to remind Mandis to not forget the dog food. I have no idea what that means. But Dan,
it means that he should not forget to pick up dog food.
Don't forget the dog food.
They were out of dog food.
Well, there you go.
You could also shorten it to Jazz for fun.
Hey, Jazz.
No.
Did he tell you that?
What? He's told that story on the air.
He has now.
Yeah.
See, this is why I don't feel bad for him. I mean, I think we all, as we listen to Nashville's Morning News, have this incredible appreciation that Mandis has no filter and is his own man.
Mm-hmm.
And as good as that is, it also comes with the bad. Like Jasmine.
I know of all the talk radio hosts on this station, Dan Mandis' social media posts are my favorite. It's not close.
Of all the talk radio hosts on this station, Dan Mandis is one of them.
You just like the sitting with Bandit and watching
I
the
like
Xfinity.
watching the things that Dan Mandis does with Comcast Xfinity. It's the best ad ever.
Well, I mean, it's working.
I remember that. I
It's
remember
working.
the ad.
All right. Tell you what was I going to do? Dadgummit, I forgot what. Oh, I remember. Bell K wants to convince Senator Bill Haggerty to wear a heavy metal T-shirt on the floor of the United States Senate in response to Fetterman. But he's demanding that it be specific. He's demanding that it be Motley Crue and Motley Crue alone. And I'm telling him I think he's limiting himself. I think we could probably convince Haggerty to do this if it weren't Motley Crue. If
The
it was
correct
another
answer
band.
is Metallica.
No.
Master of Puppets.
No.
Love it.
I don't know why you're stuck on the Motley Crue thing. They're not even your favorite band.
They're one of.
Smoking in the boys' room.
I think give a little.
Hate the unwashed masses.
Give a little to get a lot. What I'm saying.
Motley Crue.
Home Sweet Home.
Motley Crue.
I used to know how to play that on the piano.
I want to see Mitch McConnell with an earring on the Senate floor.
Motley Crue T-shirt on.
Yeah.
Theater of Pain.
I think Brian Wilson's bored with this conversation.
I don't blame him. I am too. It's 2:48 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Ladies and gents, Tennessee Men's Clinic is there for you with 2 separate locations. I was at their Midtown location earlier in the week, and I asked them how Franklin Cool Springs was going, and man, it's going gangbusters. A lot of you south of the city that want to get to Tennessee Men's Clinic and find out those numbers and make sure that your numbers are where they should be, well, you've done so. The Cool Springs location is going just fabulously, as is the Midtown location, and it's time that you stopped by. Did you know that most men wait way longer after they discover symptoms, sluggishness, a lack of energy, a lack of motivation or drive, feeling tired and or grumpy? If you're experiencing this and you think, well, Murphy, I'm 50 years old, I should be. No, you shouldn't be. Yes, there is something that you can do about it, and yes, it all starts with a telephone conversation information at Tennessee Men's Clinic. Go online to find out more at TennesseeMen'sClinic.com, or better yet, 615-208-9090, 208-9090 for our friends at the Tennessee Men's Clinic.
A government shutdown, bed bugs at a Tennessee movie theater, holiday hiring in Tennessee, and a popular American favorite having to recall thousands of their products. Those stories and more coming up at 3 o'clock. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Maury. I'm here with Cameron Smith for a few more moments. By the way, we're being told that the nature of the joke regarding the dog food involves Riker yelling at Mandis this morning down the stairs that he's not to forget dog food. And that apparently happened on the air. So,
of course.
You know, I got Wilson to laugh. Brian Wilson is with us to preview everything that's going on with the drive. And Brian, I imagine, I'm just guessing here, I'm spitballing, but I imagine you've been watching some of this Merrick Garland dog and pony show.
I have some of it that I'm going to be playing right off the bat here. But while I have you guys,
yes, sir.
I know that you Matt, have had a great interest in the missing F-35 and how in the world did this all happen?
Amen.
But you have not lived until you hear what happened. You know, when you're a television reporter, and I did this for a lot of years, you rush out to the scene when you find out there's a story, and you look for anybody who may have seen something. It's called Man on the Street, Vox Populi, Vox Pop, or what we call sound on tape of somebody who witnessed what happened. Every once in a while you get one that is just priceless. And I have here for you a man by the name of Randolph White who lived nearby, and here it is for your dancing and dining pleasure.
Okay. In the bathroom taking a shave, and I heard a screeching, between a screech and a whistle. What in the world is this? And I heard boom. Then my whole house shook. The first thought came to me. I said,
please put that on social media.
Might come out of space or something. And I said, well, if the airplane, it needed to be reported, but the thing was flying just too low.
Too low. But his this is the part.
Oh my.
When I was in television, we had a special reel that we kept for great man on the street interviews, or person on the street interviews. We would we keep them on, and then we whenever we go to a party, we'd pull out the tape and play it. It was hilarious. But no, I just thought. By the way, there is a lot of new information about what happened, and it may have something to do with the fact that this was a variant of the F-35 that the Marines fly that can take off and land vertically. And it is set up a little differently than the other F-35s, and by the way, more expensive. We've been talking about $80 million. It's actually $100 million apiece.
And just, and poof, like that, $100 million goes boom, as Mr. White noted. And by the way, may I note, correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, Mr. White said that he was in the bathroom taking a shave.
Taking a shave.
Taking a shave, which is a
shave.
Okay. I'm just clarifying for those maybe not listening as closely as they should. Well, that is exciting. That's the best audio I've heard in a long time. We'll be listening. Brian Wilson coming up in mere moments right after the news with Mac Maury. We're back at high noon tomorrow. Listen in for The Drive with Brian Wilson in moments. Thank you, Cameron Smith. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
And we'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Until then, have a wonderful afternoon, folks. So long.